Hello, greetings and salutations. How is everybody doing? All right, listen, we have literally been bringing in CEO after CEO, and I have kept you up to date on announcements, PRs, and many things. So listen, let's grow this channel, folks. We are, one of the few, if not the only one, offering firsthand due diligence. So if you're watching, please hit the like button because believe it or not, it does help the algos. And I want us to grow to 2,000 subscribers by the end of the year because we're doing some awesome due diligence here. It's a great resource for people. And I will say, shout out to my producer, Rob, who has been a godsend. Seriously, couldn't be happier that he's on board and he has to deal with me and help me out. So thank you, Rob, very, very much. So, yes, he's giving himself a round of applause right now. Well earned. But seriously, before we get into it, let's take a look at the chat and let's see who we have with us tonight. I see we have 20 people here so far. Aaron, Jord, Gary, Old Misers Games, Gary Wright, Kelly O'Neill, and we have Roberts in the house, Michael Singleton. Guys, it's great to have you here. We're going to have a great conversation today. We truly are. This is a real special movement that we have going on. Like I said earlier, nobody's doing it. And so we get to be the first. We get to do firsthand due diligence with people in the trenches of the trading world. And I have been absolutely enjoying it. And hey, I want you guys to enjoy it the same. If you have a CEO or a company that you'd like me to have on the show that you think would love to share information about their company, let me know. Send me a DM and maybe we can make that happen. Stay tuned tomorrow at 8 p.m., by the way. I will have an interview. We had it earlier today. And it's edited, packaged, and ready to go with ticker VAPR. eSight Motors. It was really cool sitting down with those guys. So make sure you tune in tomorrow at 8 p.m. So I don't know. All right. I'm just getting really excited here. So like I said, welcome everybody. Hit the like button. If you're watching this video, I see you guys here all the time. Hit the like button. Seriously. So are you guys ready for this one? I know I'm ready. I'm absolutely ready. So ticker IFUS, Impact Fusion International. Let's bring him in. Mr. Marc Walther, CEO. Bring him in.
How you doing, guys?
Hey, Mr. Marc Walther, how are you doing? Welcome to the BFC.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
So there's so much to talk about today. And guys, listen, if you have questions, put them in the comment section so that way Mr. Marc Walther can answer your questions. So first, Marc, could you tell the audience about your path and how you became the leader you are at Impact Fusion International?
Well, it's a lot of things, but to consolidate it, I've owned businesses in 2 countries. I've always taken ideas that nobody else has. I have a patent with Ford Motor Company that I developed. And what I really look at is where did things come from? And why do you call it something? And see if it fits in today's day and age. So I've done things in laser that was very unique. I've done things that in cattle feed, as we've seen, and then I took care of 2 parents that died at a very young age of cancer. So I learned a lot about nutrients, and I learned a lot from my mother, and she will probably live 17 years longer than anybody would have with breast cancer. And so with all of that, when I saw what we're doing today, I knew exactly what I was looking at, and I knew exactly how to make it better. And some of the stuff just kind of evolved. And then I've had a lot of good people that are around me that I actually listen to. And and as the younger we are, the more we don't listen. But I've gotten a lot of lessons from people that have helped me. So my background is really about finding a need and filling it.
Right on. And, guys, ask questions when you want to, and we'll bring them up. So thank you for sharing that. I do want to talk the number side. I do want to talk the share structure and get that sort of out of the way because there's so much information that we're going to talk about tonight. So let's get the stock side of this out of the way. Your share structure has remained largely intact. and consistent over the last couple of years. And let me just go over these details for our viewers. You have a market cap of 11.3 million, authorized share count of 625 million, and that's the authorized. The outstanding share count is 531 million, with the restricted count being 254. Now, recently there were some shares added to the structure. What were these shares for, and what will the funding be allocated for?
Mainly for testing and starting up this lead ball called Nutramastic, and that is primarily what it's for. If, as you said, we don't have a big float. Uh, I don't earn a living from the company, and I watch things very closely. I build most of what we have, in fact, all of it, and so that's what the funding that I raise uh, is used for. So it's not something that I do to fill my pockets, but it's to build this thing that I'm very proud of. And I think anybody that gets around it looks at it and says, "There's something there. There's something there."
Yeah. I will just ask this question because this is the OTC favorite. Will there be a reverse split in the next 12 months? And would you potentially initiate a share buyback if you reach extreme profitability?
Well, the answer to the first question is no. There will be no reverse split. Um, you know, I am a very large stockholder, and why would I want to shoot myself in the foot? And all the people that are around me are people that believed in me and that believe in me and invest in the company. Why would I want to hurt them? I don't, and I won't. Um, and as far as a buyback, I mean, that's too futuristic for the company. I can't project anything like that right now. I can't even imagine that. So, so the answer there is no. Also,
Right on. All right, now that we got that out of the way,
yeah.
um, I have to say the stock and business is absolutely fascinating to me. I'm a big supporter of the cattle industry. I'm the kind of person that likes to order my butcher box and get high quality meat from farms, from sustainable farms, and have, because you know what, you could taste the difference in the meat. When you get store bought
Mhm.
product that's been sitting out since it's been processed, sometimes weeks. You're really not getting fresh meat. And so, this is really fascinates me. And there are so many aspects to the business side, more than just feeding cows. SGP, has the ability to literally transform and save the cattle industry. And we're going to get to that in a second. And I'm sure, you're very excited to share that. But what I wanted to share with you is something that you may have already known about. It's an article, and I wanted to share this with my audience because I was surfing a Good Rancher site, and I saw this website. I saw this article, and I was really like stunned when I saw this, and I just want to get your take. This is from Blaze Media. Ireland considering killing almost a quarter million cows to fight climate change. And it talks here. There were multiple reports this week that the Irish government was contemplating a plan to cull 200,000 cows within 3 years to fight climate change. And so it goes on further in the article, and it cites Pat McCormick here, the president of the Irish Creamery Milk Suppliers Associated, declared, if there is to be a scheme, it needs to be a voluntary scheme. That's absolutely critical because there's no point in culling numbers from an individual who has borrowed on the back of a huge financial commitment, on the back of achieving a certain target that's taken from under him. And it goes on, and this is what this struck home to me, and I thought of you. We should be investing in an infrastructure that can deliver from a scientific perspective. And we know low emissions are better, and we should be continuing to invest in further science and research because that's absolutely critical as we move forward. So, when we're talking about SGP, which we're going to get into, I want your thoughts when you hear governments talk about like literally like getting rid of and slaughtering cows just to curb carbon emissions. What runs through your mind?
Well, it if you get out and see the cows, like when we go to the ranch we have, or any kind of ranch that I go to, those poor things are suffering from a lot of things. sometimes just the way they're handled. And I learned a lot about that at the symposium I went to on feeding quality.
Hmm.
We contacted, or Rhonda, my secretary, contacted them by letter, because you got to remember, culling means kill, and that flat what it means. And we can stop that by feeding our product and giving them a platform that can stop the production of methane gas and stop the CO2 problem. And that's exactly what that government is trying to achieve, but they don't have all the facts. And so I tell a lot of people that I try to advertise with, I say, I want you to visualize our company. I'm this little ant on the ground, and I'm trying to yell up to the guy that's the human and get in his ear and tell him I got the answer.
Hmm.
What are we screwing around for? I got the answer. I can make your cow, I can make the cow crap not smell anymore. What do you think that is? And I can make the urine not smell anymore.
Wow.
I can make the flies go away. I mean, when I saw the flies at the Deer Run Ranch, I mean, I was stunned. There were no flies. There weren't even flies on the cow pies. And as Robert will tell you later on, that the cow pies are number 3 cow pies, which I got to meet the guy in Lincoln, Nebraska, the last few days that actually put that program together. But when you have number 3 cow pies, you actually, I mean, at the ranch, they turn to dust and the grass grows up through it. I mean, it's the way we were taught 100 years ago. And
Hmm.
I read a book, and I'll make this real short. I read a book that one of my scientists told me to read, and it's called, it was written in 1950, and I can only get it out of Oxford, and I had to get it in PDF form because they don't publish it anymore. But it was called Soil, Grass, and Cancer. And he was based on technology that went back to the Civil War
Hmm.
and up to about 1950. And he was saying things that he didn't know what a GMO was, genetically modified product. And what he was saying is, don't use oil-based um, fertilizers. What do we use now? Oil-based
Hmm.
fertilizers. Our whole economy is based on oil-based something. So with any government, even down in Australia. I've gotten contact from people in Madagascar, India. Um, if they can get out of their own way, we got the answer, and it's all natural. Everything
Hmm.
we have is natural, and you don't have to kill cows, and that is that is a very difficult thing. And one guy told me, he was head of a very large magazine for dairy. He says, "You know what your biggest problem is, don't you?" I said, "Yeah, I do." And he says, "What is it?" I said, "Nutritionists. Nutritionists aren't, they're suppliers. Why would they want to sell less corn, less wheat, less hay? They don't." And so when I heard that our government was actually trying to get a law passed that ranchers can go around that, because you got to remember, they have to live in the USDA box,
Hmm.
and they have to follow what the nutritionist tells them to do. I see a lot of guys now saying, "The hell with the nutritionist. I got a ranch to run," and so you don't see change until you see the look in their eye that is desperation.
Hmm.
And when the desperation comes, they're willing to try things that are different. And if I can walk up to you, like many guys I did at the feeding forum, and say, everything we have is natural,
Hmm.
everything we have is approved by the FDA, the EPA, the USDA. It's all approved. There's nothing unnatural. There's nothing synthetic. So why wouldn't you want to try it? So if I'm coming in and I'm saying, okay, I can do all these things, which are, we'll talk about the immensity of it, and if I can do all these things, why wouldn't you want to take 25 cows? Because you're getting your butt kicked
Hmm.
by the Brazilians and the Chinese and everybody else. Why wouldn't you want to try 25? Because if you're successful and what I'm saying is true, then you're the winner. You just beat your competition. And when I heard the people at the feeding forum, the Americans ought to be very proud of our dairy and our beef manufacturers. That the thing that they don't know right now is the rest of the story.
Mm,
So that's what I'm trying to get as an ant on the ground. I'm trying to get up to that human and say, I got the answer. Why can't anybody hear me?
mm. Wow. You know what? It makes the gears in my mind go because you're touching on a lot of subjects here and it's all connected. And you know what? And you said, who's the winner? They're going to beat their competition. But in all actuality, we're all going to be the winner because
Yes.
those of us who consume this meat and this product, you know, that's what I want for the cattle industry. I know that for sure as hell is what you want as well, too.
Mhm.
So let's go down that route. Supreme Gold Plus. Lay it on us. What is it? How is it made? And why should every cattle rancher across America be an Impact Fusion customer?
That's a big answer, but I'll say it like this because one thing we practice is our 2 minute elevator speech. And any business I've been in, you have your 2 minute elevator speech. So what I basically tell somebody is that I have a product that I developed out of a renewable that is called bagasse. Bagasse is a French word for crushed sugar cane. It is everywhere. The property that our shareholders own at Supreme, I've got one that you can see from a satellite. You can
Wow.
drive around to the other 11 sugar mills, and it just keeps growing. And it's too expensive to take to a landfill. And from an insurance standpoint, you got to keep water uh, above it to put the fires out because it does compost like mad.
Hmm.
So so I have some, with bagasse, it for us, the older the bagasse, the better. And it's not the new stuff. The new stuff I can use, but the old stuff is better. So what I have an ancient formula that goes back to the Garden of Eden, and I have we have made it better. Now here's what's in it, and you can get a nutritional guide from us that tells you all this. And I don't put it on the website because I want to ask the guy for his email. So give me your email and I'll send it to you. So we put in mastic. Now mastic kills H. pylori. H. pylori is the black mold that looks like a corkscrew,
Hmm.
and it drills into your gut and it drills into your mouth, and it does the same thing to animals, dogs, cats, and cows. Doesn't matter. I take that and it kills bacteria. It's been used for thousands of years, and I put it in with 70 ionic minerals and trace minerals, and I get that from Trap Seas.
Hmm.
And I mix oil, mastic oil, and water, and it doesn't separate. Who does that? Didn't they teach in high school that you can't mix, water and oil don't mix? They'll separate. Oh, that doesn't happen with ours. The other thing I put in is a product that's called, some people call it carob, some people call it carob, but the biggest user of carob is actually Hershey's chocolate. And when we all hear our Bible stories, it is John the Baptist went out in the wilderness, ate locusts and honey. Well, there's no bees, there's no locust in the desert. So what he ate was the locust pod, which tastes like honey, and you can pick it off a tree, and it's got a deep taproot, and it's been used for cattle feed for thousands of years. And that's so all of this goes into that
Hmm.
monster machine that I made. And so with all of that, um,
Wow.
this product can be fed. Cattle eat it. I've got videos all over Twitter that they eat it. And if you're getting number three cow pies, which I got a chance to meet that guy last week or this week, Robert Wells, that if you're getting number three cow pies, then you're getting between 12 and 15% crude protein. What's the first question a rancher asked me? What's your crude protein? Well, what's the digestive system look like in your cow? I can give you all kinds of protein, but I can tell you if I look at the back end, you're getting very poor looking number 1 or number 5 cow pies, which tells me you can base it on your own studies, that your cow is not digesting. It's coming out the back end. And what happens when it comes out the back end? It smells, and we talked about that, methane gas, and you're not getting the absorption you should. It also helps fight the cow drinking water. Cow doesn't have to drink as much water. And what's happening right now, water is a very precious commodity. They were talking about it like mad at the feeding forum. And when you got ranchers, and especially in Texas, that have to drill 200 feet down further to get to the aquifer to get water,
Wow.
that's expensive. And so our product takes all of these components, including the bagasse, which is actually the minor part. But let me give you a quick lesson that my scientists gave me on if you take crude protein, or if you take protein and you look at lignin. Lignin is like an atomic bomb of protein, and nobody can unlock it. What is lignin? It's the stiff part of the plant. So if you got bagasse, it's a bamboo, and it's stiff, and it's got lots of lignin, and a lot of the lignin can't be broke down. And so what ends up happening is it sits there, and it sits in the stack and does nothing. So now, if you have good digestion, that's why you're getting number 3 cow pies, then it's digesting the lignin. If it's digesting the lignin, that means when it comes out in the number 3 cow pie, it doesn't furfural, which is what a fly looks for. He can't find it. So what does he do? He goes somewhere else. He goes to a carcass somewhere in the field or something. But so there are no flies. So the benefits keep happening. So you're going to gain weight faster. I mean, I can go to a businessman, and whether he's raising beef or he's manufacturing car parts, he understands his cost. What do I put in? What do I get out? So if I look at a rancher like I have right now, I've got a good friend of mine that is raising Black Angus. You can see it on Twitter. He's got 100 of them, and he told me, he said, "Look, I think I'm going to get out of the business." And I said, "Why? What's going on?" He says, "I can't make money." He said, "I got to go to Arkansas to get hay, and I can't. I just can't make money. I'm at like $350 a head per day." And I said, "Well, tell you what, let's work on our program, and let's see how you do, and let's try to eliminate hay." And he's down to 45 cents per head per day.
Wow.
What businessman doesn't understand that metric? You could be the dumbest guy in the world. I understand the difference between 350 and 45 cents. So I can go to a cattleman and say, "I'll give you all these natural things that are something that you don't have to go to the FDA and get approved, or the USDA, and I can eliminate hay." Look at their face. I mean, first of all, they usually don't believe you. So, I have to say, okay, you can go to the Deer Run Ranch. You can see that there. Or you can go to other customers that we have that don't use hay. And hay's not going to get easy to get. I mean, it's going to get harder to get. It's going to get more expensive. And so I think that answered your question, but I hope it did.
Yeah, it does. And you mentioned Deer Run Ranch. And so we have another guest with us today, Mr. Robert Schmidt of Deer Run Ranch, one of your customers. Rob, let's bring him in.
Hello.
Hello, Robert Schmidt. Welcome to Buffalo Fireside Chats. How are you doing?
Great. You're doing fantastic. How are you guys doing?
Fantastic here as well. Great to have you on. So the stage is yours. Tell us a little bit about your experience with SGP and working with Marc, and talk about your farm. Talk about how your cattle have responded.
Yeah, we have a ranch in East Texas. It's not as big as most of the Texas ranches, but we got like 2,000 acres. and we got close to 300 cows, and we started feeding bag ass or Supreme Gold, and I went and bought a mixer so I could mix it real easy, and we have gotten results that's just unbelievable. And every day we finding new things that it does. And one of the things which Mark mentioned is there's no flies, and we spend thousands of dollars every year on fly prevention, and you still can't get rid of them. You go out and you can't even open the doors up to a truck or a car when you go out there because the cows are so bad. But this year there is no flies on the cows at all, and they're so relaxed. And even with the drought going on, which is really severe now, you go out there and they're laying under a shade tree, and we've got tons of pictures of them with no flies. And now something else we've just noticed is that when they're cow patty, usually we have rakes that we put behind tractors, and we rake the cow manure down into the pastures. And then when it rains, it soaks back into the ground, and it's just a cycle. And you recycling the cow manure back on the cows. I mean, it's just a natural thing. You don't even have to do that anymore. The patties just disintegrate. It's crazy. Usually when you rake over them, the patty doesn't break up, and it's yellow up underneath it where the grass has died. Not now. And there's absolutely no smell. There's no methane smell. There's no flies. The list just goes on, and it's simply amazing.
Yeah, I mean, and you're practically shouting from the rooftops that this thing works. Now this product, you have we were talking backstage earlier, and you have goats too, correct? And like, have you been able to feed this to other animals as well?
Oh yes, yeah. I have goats, and my goats eat it also, and I have the same results from the goats. Again, like you say, I'm shouting from the rooftops because this product is so amazing. It's just I'm just blown away by it every day when I go feed it to them, and I just go by them, and there's no flies. And I mean, you can be out in the middle of the pasture where all these hundreds of cows are, and there's cow patties, everywhere, but they're disintegrating, but there's no smell, and that's just unheard of.
That's amazing. That's amazing. And trust me, guys, when I launched this podcast a year and a half ago, this is one thing I never thought I would be talking about, is cow poop. But it's just amazing what what you guys have really stumbled upon. Not even you haven't stumbled upon it. I mean, you've researched it. You obviously, I mean, when you're talking, Mark, you're talking about that ancient mastic. When you're talking about literally stuff, biblical remedies, biblical recipes, it's amazing. So Robert, is there anything else that you want to share with any potential farmer that could be watching this, any rancher or anybody that has connectivity to anybody in the cattle industry? What would be the one thing that you want to pass on to them?
They should really try it. And I tell all the farmers and ranchers all the time, I said, don't take my word for it. Get some, try it, and you will be just blown away by the results. And it can replace your hay. You'll just be blown away. I mean, we even have chickens that go around and eat from where the goats and the cows are. And when the chickens eat it, the leftovers, the yolk, when you get an egg, it's just real bright yellow. And that blows me away too. We just keep finding out more and more things that's so great about this product. And all we have to, and like Mark said, we're their aunt hollering up at everybody going, hey, we have the solution. We have it. Everything that's going wrong with the methane gas, no hay, it's and the flies. We have all the answers. We can fix all the problems. We just need to be heard.
Really remarkable. And I could say right now, that is Deer Run Ranch for the win, obviously. And so congratulations, at taking that chance and doing, having great success. And I wish you and your farm and your family all the success. And I appreciate you coming on the show and to do this testimonial for Mark, and those at Impact. I appreciate it.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Welcome back anytime. All right. So let's get to some questions from the audience. All right. So let's just bring these up. Doc P. And I actually was going to bring up the Nebraska trip, but hey, let's jump ahead. What was accomplished? Promising contracts, contacts with potential customers, USDA, universities, marketing opportunities, networking, feed market data collected, reception to IFUS Supreme Gold. So fill us in on this trip that you just had in Nebraska, sir.
Good question. Well, number one, what I wanted to evaluate when I went there is if I take a 10,000-foot view of our product line and I look at the industry that we're trying to go after, am I there? Am I missing something? And so I got a chance to meet Robert Wells, which is part of the Nobel Research Institute, and he's the guy that came up with the scoring system of manure. So Robert and I have a thing when he calls up. He says, "How you doing?" I said, "I'm a number 3 today," and his scoring process is phenomenal. So again, I'll get to my point here in a minute. Then I got to a guy named Jesse Fulton, and he is a research scientist. And then I got to meet a guy that you get over to this page here, and I can tell you he is, it's actually she, Lily Edwards from Colorado State University, and AJ Tardoff at Kansas City University. These are all the movers and shakers that make changes in the industry. So their jobs are to look at every aspect of what a cow goes through when it's grown, when it's raised, and then taken to the slaughterhouse. They look at the time that it spends in a truck at every phase. They look at everything that would stress out a cow. And so I look at this and say, okay, are we okay? Are we hitting the right spots? So when I go backwards to the people I just talked about, the technology is already out there. I don't have to go spend millions of dollars to validate that a number 3 cow pie is what you want to go after. And that if you're at a number 3 cow pie, you've got 12 to 15% crude protein. And so I don't have to do those tests. And they're already there. So if I go back to Jesse Fulton, there's all kinds of tests that he does, that he has performed, that go along with everything that we've talked about here, right? Not to be redundant. Lily Edwards, Colorado State University, same thing. So one of the first things I told Rhonda to do is to get a hold of these people and get me a meeting with them. Now we've talked to guys like Robert Wells, our scientist, has talked to him, and but we want an implementation conference with them. I've got this product that does what I say it can do. There is no lie. This is what it does. So how do we get that implemented in this whole program that you guys presented, meaning the cattle feed industry presented, that reduces stress to the cow in the whole process? And it doesn't matter what your business model is. For instance, we've come up with a thing that we'll be releasing here pretty quick, because there's a lot of people that want to help us, but there are every rancher you go to has a different or sometimes similar business model. Like for instance, there's one guy that has two ranches that all he does is raise calves and sell them. And so we can help him not only with the mama cow, because your milk sack, and it's one thing that Robert and I have been talking a lot about, is that whatever milk your cow is creating for the baby cow, the calf, it will be twice as big. Wow. Immediately.
Wow.
And so what better thing than we were talking about a businessman understanding input and output. If I know I got an asset called this cow and I don't have to do anything different but just feed them something that costs less than what he's feeding them now, and I can produce twice the milk, who wouldn't do that? I don't care what kind of machine you got. If I had a lathe and I could produce twice as much with the same labor, I would do that in a heartbeat. And so, from the milk standpoint, it's not only good colostrum, and that is something that was phenomenal to us. But we've given it to little ranches that have come over and borrowed some from Robert's Ranch or from our plant, and within a week, they're saying that the bag of milk is twice as big.
Wow.
So if you got a dairy and you've got, I'm gonna just use a number, 100 cows, and those cows can now produce twice the milk, what would you do?
It's
So
crazy.
here I am, this little ant yelling up to the human. I got the answer, and just give me a chance. And we do get chances, and I get a lot of people that remember we talked about earlier that when there is desperation, there is change. So if somebody's got an answer during desperation, which we do, there are change. So I get guys to come over, and I put pictures on YouTube that show ranchers coming over with trailers, and they'll get 6 super sacks, 10 super sacks of material. And they always tell me, yeah, I'm going to be testing this, but I got a bunch of other ranchers that also want to know whether this works or not. And because I'll tell you what, if you just give them bagasse alone and nothing else, they won't eat it. They just don't eat it. The way we mix it, they will eat it every time, and that's again why I show that on the site on Twitter. They eat it, no doubt about it. So, were there any deals cut? I'm going to tell you something that holds true, and if you saw the Field of Dreams, you heard it. If you build it, they will come. No, they won't. No, they won't. If it's change and it's different and it's not what the way they always did it, they won't come. So we've worked our butts off, me in the factory and me on the, going out to ranches and whatever opportunity I can get to talk to people to get an opportunity to try the product. So it's not as easy as what, people, well, you got a great product. Why aren't they buying it? Well, I'm not saying they're not buying it, but if you build it, that doesn't mean they're coming. And if you're different from what they're used to, they're really not going to come unless you do a lot of selling. So it's like pushing a lead ball, like we talked earlier. It takes a lot of energy, and once that lead ball is rolling, get the hell out of the way.
Yeah, and humans are creatures of habit. I mean, we like familiarity.
Yeah.
It's the truth,
Yep.
We got another question from our audience here. Does IFUS have revenue yet? Are there any limitations to supplies to production growth?
Do we have revenue? Yes. I can't talk about how much revenue we have. I can't talk about forward thinking things because that's just against the law. But are there limitations to the supplies to the production growth? No, there are no limitations. The thing I try to look at in any business I've ever run, I have always in my younger days when I had lots of hair, that I would go and say, you know what, we can sell the crap out of that, so I'm going to get machinery ahead of time. I don't do that anymore. And so can I, this machinery I made, and I can get much more. And I have identified machines that I can get and alter, but I'm not going to spend your money and my money on something that we don't have in our bank yet. So, now, do we have lots of capacity now? We got a lot of capacity, and one of the things that would increase our capacity is just hire more people. So we have the ability when things are rolling that we could hire 22 people, and I can teach them, and I've got So yes, we've got lots of capacity to grow. Are there any raw material capacities that I'm worried about? No, not at all. There's so much back
I
ends.
was going to say they're going to
It's
pay you to take it
unbelievable.
away, you know?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And there is lots of mastic's been around for a lot of years and thousands of years. Carob has been around for thousands of years, and our machinery that again that I built is solid. And I had a guy tell me one time. He says when I first started this project, he said, "You know, I'll tell you what. In Detroit, where you come from, it is if you got to make put a back windshield in a car, cost you $1 million." I said, "Don't do that." He said, "Go look at the way ranchers and farmers look what they're using and alter it to fit what you're doing." And it's a tough job to do that, but I did it. And so everything we have is something that I have altered from something that ranchers and farmers are using, and even down to the material handling equipment. And um, so that's the answer to that question.
Right on. Jord has another question. What
Yeah.
countries is IFUS getting requests from outside the US for SGP, and why are they interested? How badly do they need it? And you talked a little bit about this earlier.
But is that a that's a really good question. I'm getting called.
Jord's a supporter of the BFC since like day one, and that's what every CEO that I've had on this channel, Jord always gets the man. That's a really good question. So thanks, Jord. You did it again.
Well, I'll tell you what, we'll kind of walk around the countries, and I've gotten calls from little Madagascar, which is the fourth largest island in the world. We've gotten calls from, right now, we're getting a lot of push from India, and they've got a lot of bagasse. And
Mm,
um, if you look at the direction of the way we're feeding cattle, we're going to more crude protein, and that's the wrong direction. So where does 40% of the grain come from? It comes from the Ukraine. I don't see a lot of farmers planting shit over there. They just, they're getting bombed. And so if 40% is coming from there, now what's happening? I heard over this in this conference, they were talking about supply of crude protein. So for instance, China isn't exporting anything for crude protein. They're importing it all to their country.
hmm,
India is restricting the shipment of rice. No shipment of rice
yep.
out of India. That's another protein source that a lot of cattlemen use. Brazil is one of the biggest producers of soy. Um, they're shipping no soy to anybody. So what's that tell you? All these countries. In fact, the guy in Madagascar was telling me. I said, well, "You guys must be really starting to get a lot of pressure on starvation." He said, "No, no, it's long been a pressure that we've experienced." So when I look at all that, um, if you got areas that have hay, which I don't know many that do, and you got uh, crude protein that they're trying to produce more supply, it's not happening.
Hmm.
So all over the world, again, I'm this little ant on the ground trying to yell up, "I got the answer." That we're becoming more and more visible. Um, Now, one of the things they're trying to do is in the dairy industry, they're trying to change the genetics. They're doing
Hmm.
DNA splicing.
Mm-hmm.
Well, their goal when I went to the meeting in Canada was, well, our goal is to take and change the DNA of food, plants, and people. And I looked
Jesus.
around. I said, "Anybody hear what they just said? That's
It's
incredibly bad."
ludicrous. And we're talking
Yeah,
about petri dish food now, like lab
yeah.
created meat.
Now, the kind of DNA that they're
It's
trying to
insane.
change in the beef industry is by cattle putting cattle together in DNA. For instance, they found that Black Angus produced the most consistent
Hmm.
meat. Okay, so what they're trying to do is breed Black Angus. That's different than trying to change the formulation that God put together.
Yeah, right.
So genetic splicing is
Mm.
something. In fact, even Bill Gates, he owns like 70,000 acres in Louisiana. So we looked him up,
Mm.
and he must own sugarcane. Everybody that has land in Louisiana has sugarcane. And I listened to his video that he had from Africa, and he's down in Africa trying to figure out what the DNA splicing they
Mm.
should do for the cows down there that don't require as much water. I thought, man, just look at what our forefathers taught us. You don't need to change the formula. You need to get back to the norm of what they were eating in the first place. And
And like you said, with
so,
your product, they literally you consume less water, as you mentioned
yes,
earlier. So there's a solution. Kristen Chemnitzer, my sister, she's in Arizona.
yeah.
Have any ranchers in Arizona tried this product?
No,
Not
no,
Arizona
they
yet.
have not.
All right,
No.
Wayward wants to know, what areas do you ship to? Could you pretty much cover out the whole United States?
If could I? Yes. And I'll tell you what, I spent a lot of time, um, and I want to stay on this track here.
Hmm.
I spent a lot of time on shipping because one of the things I get a lot of calls from truckers, and they all say that they infer that they are also in the cattle business. And then when I start talking to them, I realize, well, how am I going to add $2,000 to shipping this product and to my customer? Okay, you just told me who you were. You're selling to your customer, but here's the thing that I always say to them. I say, you know what? I know you're the trucker that sells supplies, so you don't know what the line item areas that we can knock out. For instance, if I can give you no hay, if I can give you less protein, have you buy less crude protein, if you don't have to buy certain products like minerals, and I go on, then and you get digestion that is the way the cow was supposed to gain weight, then freight becomes less and less and less and less and less
Mm.
a factor in the equation. And they still don't get it. They still don't get it. So I can't sell to truckers because they're not they strictly think in weight. And
I gotta say, ironically, the guy who asked this question is a trucker, which is pretty funny.
okay, well,
So
yeah,
this is actually a really good answer for you, Wayward.
yeah, yeah. So what I looked at is okay, if I make it in bales, and like we originally started, it slows down my production where I can only produce 25 bales an hour. Well, 25 bales is, it's 2,200 pounds per bale.
Mm.
They're really solid bales. I mean, they're really put a lot of pressure on them. Um, so what I so when I do that, I thought to myself, there's got to be a better way that I could build them and put them in super sacks, because now I can take it, I can put it in a box truck, 53-foot box truck. I can put it on a 53-foot flatbed,
Mm.
and if I put it in a 90-yard dump trailer, which are huge, that's what I have. That's what I bring the bagasse in to the plant. Then I have no backhauls, and I am a trucker. I have a trucker's license, and I actually ran a very large trucking company for a friend of mine. And backhauls are really key. So if I'm going out to Texas and I'm going to take a dump trailer, 90-yard dump trailer, what backhaul am I going to get? So I got
Mm.
to pay for both ways to transport that material. So if I go to super sacks, which again I built the super sack holder myself, and instead of paying 30 grand for to hold one super sack, I built it for nothing. And
Hmm.
so now I can take and I can put that super sack, uh, like on a 53-foot trailer, I can put 40,000 pounds of material in a super sack. I can put it in the box truck. And now that guy that comes and brings his flatbed to my place, and he can actually do a backhaul coming to or bring a product to the area that we're in, and then drive back. So I got no backhauls. I got no. It's all taken care of. All I got to pay is for all the customer has to pay is for one way. So the other way that they do pick it up, and I just talked to a guy that's about 2 hours away from us, and he is a dairy, and he wants to send his trucks, which are walking floors or belt driven floors, and wanted to know if I could fill those, and I can. We got some really good equipment, and that's about 22,000 pounds. So when I went to this symposium that we were talking about earlier, what I wanted to see was, and with driving 6,000 miles in the last 2 weeks, I wanted to see where our customers were in the most need. So where should I spend my time and to get these customers? And it's basically Texas, Louisiana, Oklahoma, Mississippi, and that would be the immediate area. Now, could I sell to Ohio? Yeah, I'm talking to a guy in Ohio that has 10,000 head. And how would I ship it up there? Ship it on barge. I'm a half hour from Mississippi. The cheapest way to ship anything is by barge. And so, and I could put that either in super sack or I could have it filled into the barge containers. So, so that's really, I hope I answered the question, because it's been really on my mind.
Yeah, I definitely think that's a solid answer. And thanks for sharing those immediate areas that you want to supply to. But like you said, you could still supply to places like Ohio. Anthony, the video, my homeboy over there on the East Coast. Hey, will you start to market towards farmers of other animals like sheep, goats, horses, and maybe chickens? And I know we talked a little bit about that earlier. So your thoughts?
Yeah, we're doing that right now.
Hmm.
For instance, talking to Robert Schmidt like we did, he's got 300 goats, and they are, if you turn your head, he's got 400. You turn your head again, it's 500, and they eat it up. And I got videos on Twitter that shows them running into the feeding area, and no hesitation, man, they eat it. So they had a butcher that butchered a couple of the goats, and his comment was, "What are you feeding these goats? The meat is incredible." And so I'm looking forward to having some goat when I go out to his place. I'm also talking to other people that they want to buy 700 goats, and how would they feed them? And we can tell them how to feed them. It's just like we're feeding the cows. And so the goats are the goat area is really growing, because the demographics of people coming into this country, the tastes are changing. So does it work on chickens? There was one of our scientists brought up an article, a study, a white paper on a guy that is actually feeding chickens, and I never would have thought chickens would have been something that, because they have gizzards and they, I wouldn't think it would be something that would be applicable, but I know on the ranch that Robert's got, they eat it, and without hesitation. The dogs eat it without hesitation. Even the horses will eat it. So yeah, I hope that answered that question too.
Right on. Jordan has another question. Can you talk about Supreme AG absorbent for oil cleanup? All right, so we're gonna sort of move into the other aspects of IFUS, Impact Fusion International, other than the feed. So tell us a little bit about this. Like I just found out about this from Mike. It was like maybe a month and a half ago. I'm like, I had no idea, and he pretty much laid it out. But lay it out for the audience.
Well, yeah, there's a lot of revenue sources that our company has, and so I like in conversation and in presentation, I like to stay focused. So Supreme AG is this. Uh, Years ago, LSU came in, and when before we Impact Fusion owned the property, and they did testing, and under some compression, they developed a process that you could put. I call them a product slinger. They could put in a swamp and blow it out and clean up oil. So I took it one step further, a big step, and with our machine, we can produce that same thing. And their patent is up, by the way. Um, we can produce better product with our machine. Now, here's what it does: is if you spray it in, if you get an oil spill, you spray it in a swamp, you spray it on water, you spray it on dirt. Um, a characteristic that this product has, it will absorb the oil, because we talked about earlier, this absorbs oil, it displaces water. So even though when you go to a bagasse pile, you can smell it before you see it, because that's the water and the bacteria that are in there. We get rid of that. In fact, when you touch our product after we process it, it is cold. There is no composting. It kills the bacteria. And so when we compress it and put it into any oil that, like, you could have oil that is on top of water, it'll come in and soak that oil up into the fiber and turn it back to mud within 90 days.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a miracle, but it does what I'm saying. So when I get it on cement, I started noticing when I was running a trucking company for a friend of mine, I started coming in with Supreme in bags, and I wanted them to throw it on the oil that was in our 8-bay trucking, where they're changing oil all the time. And so then they started saying, "Hey, you got any more of that stuff, that Supreme stuff?" I thought, "Why? What's going on?" Well, it really absorbs that stuff really good.
Wow.
And like one guy was telling me, said, "It really sucks it right out of the pavement." I said, "No way, no way." So I went back there. It sucks it right out of the pavement, and turns it back to mud. And you just sweep
It's
it up,
crazy.
and yeah, it's crazy. And
Wow. Literally an all natural process.
yeah, and it's I'm testing it right now at a big um, plant that, and I don't want to say the name, because anytime I say a name, somebody calls them,
Yeah.
and yeah, it's something. But um, they asked me. They said, "Okay, how would we put this out? How would we?" I said, "Because you could use it. You could leave it all over the plant, and its plant is huge." And I said, "But it really depends what you're trying to clean up. If you're trying to clean up something off cement, just throw it out. And if you're trying to clean it up on water, oil and water don't mix. So how much oil do you have at the top? Just throw it in there until it can absorb all the oil, and it'll turn the water back to a potable drinking water at the bottom." And so they're doing those experiments right now, because they'd rather go green than to go with chemicals. Even though when BP had the spill, they went all chemical, and you don't have to do that. It's what's the hardest place to clean up oil spills? It's in a bayou. It's in a river,
Water.
with all the leaves and so forth, and this cleans it right up, if it's on the surface or if it's below the surface. So
Wow. That is very, very promising. Brad Earnhardt. Brad, how you doing, man? How do shareholders help you to build IFUS as far as new customers, farmers, feed, and seeds, etc.?
well, myself and our scientists, I said to him, I said, "You know what?" I said, "Every one of these farmers, ranchers, whatever, have a business model, and they're all different. In fact, whenever I go to one of them, I talk to them about their business model. because it could be that they're just growing calves and they're not, they're not growing their cattle for beef. They're just growing them to have more calves.
Hmm.
And there's a business behind that. If you're building them to go just to 1,200 pounds, and then I had one guy that was doing that in Mississippi, and he would grow them to 1,200 pounds, and then send them back to the guy that sent them in to have them fatten up the cows. You got other guys that have both of those businesses going on. So it's really so what I asked our scientists to do, I said, put together, because he used to run a pretty big dairy. And I said, can you put together a list as if I was bringing in salesmen? And I used to do this with the companies I had, is I would put together on a new product what they should be looking for, where the savings would be, and how I could convey that to the customer. And so that's what we're just about done. I just got back into the office and I want to review that, but I want to be able to give to certain people that call us and say, you know what? I had one guy tell me recently that he has a dairy right by up in Pennsylvania. And he said, I don't know what to say to the guy. And I know your product works. I said, I know, leave it up to me. Let me see. So when I went to this cattlemen's meeting that I was telling you about, I said to our staff, I said, I came from a world in sales that I had a big leather book with all my information on my customers. If I lost it, I was dead. I had literature on everything. And I tell you what, you build muscles with that crap. And so I said, but I don't want to do that anymore. I said, what I want to do is I got everything in my little phone, all my addresses, but in our website, I want to be able to say with my card, and I actually did this with a guy, and I'll tell you a short story about the latter part of the meeting. And he said, "You the guy that asked the question?" And I said, "Yeah, that was me." He says, "How do you do that?" And I said, "Well, I'll tell you what. Here's my card." I said, "I want you to go in and see that website right there. Go into the website, and there's a video that is on the front that will help you establish what we do. And it's only 4 minutes long." And he shook his head like, okay. He said, "Now, what is this?" I said, "It's a supplement that sets up a platform that allows you to do these things." And I said, then the second thing you want to look at is up on that same website, you got SGP Plus. It's got a 32-page report that with pictures and everything else. And one of the guys that we got the pictures from was one of the presenters here, the guy that actually set up the system for measuring cow pies. So then when you're done with that, you can go over to mastic and look at the ancient history of mastic. And then you can look at Nutrimastic so all the stuff is there. Now, the only thing I don't put up there is I don't put up the nutrition guide, which is only a 3-page thing. Talks about what's in it. So, you're not going to put something in your cow that's going to kill the cow. But I want him to give me his email. So what I told him, I says, then give me your email and I'll send you a nutrition guide. Now I got him. I got contact with him. So as it relates to how people can help us, and I need help. I need people to help us get the word out for that little ant and human story. I'll give you the tools and you'll have them soon. I just have to review them. And I got some new people that I'm hiring and training at the plant. And but I'll have that for you, because if I could get guys to understand that, and I've done that in the past, and they could go to people and at least get the introduction set up. You don't have to do the selling. I'll do that. And I can do that either, by going there, or I can do it by, all the things like we're doing today. But
and that's important. It's almost like a grassroots movement, and that's really what you're doing. That's what you're doing, and it's going to transform.
No pun intended, right?
I was going to say that dad joke of the day. And I got to say this because you brought up Mississippi, and somebody sent me a question in my direct messages, and I promised that I would ask this. But I'm glad that you did bring up the university studies and stuff. let me ask you, you have a ton of claims with the research that you've done with SGP and your products overall. Would you consider having these claims studied and peer reviewed? Like I said, I received an email from a subscriber that recommended working with Mississippi State University because they have a world-class College of Agriculture and Life Sciences department and work with a lot of industry leaders and companies. Would you like to see a massive study done that would support your research and your work?
Yes, I would. But let me preface that statement. Um, Again, our science staff and myself, we looked at we actually talked to the guy at Texas A&M that runs their program. In fact, his family owns a sugar mill in Brazil. So he's well aware of that.
Hmm.
But if you had $1 million, you could get those studies done.
Hmm.
It just for a study on 25 cows would cost you at Texas A&M. This is according to the guy that does that. It would cost us 150 grand, and we would only get a small aspect of what our claims are.
Mhm.
So I would love to do that, but I don't think this company has got the wherewithal to do that. Now, if I went to if I took all the information that is out there and is already been documented and so forth, all I have to do, like Dr. Wells at Nobel, he's already done that.
Hmm.
So I really don't have to do all those tests. I just have to, and that's what that slide deck is, the PowerPoint that is on SGP Plus on our website, is I reference all those at the bottom, and our
Hmm.
science guy did a great job on it. That you can actually go and research that. Now we also looked at it and said, if we can get a particular ranch that wants to do a study. A lot of them have grant money sitting there. Dairies have lots of grant money sitting around, and they want to do studies on stuff. Uh, so if we could get them, that they would take some of that grant money and move it towards studying what we're claiming, like CO2 gas,
Mhm.
or and so forth, then that's probably the closest we're going to get to that.
Yeah.
So I need to show people that it works on a one-to-one basis. It's
Mm.
hard work, but I would love to have all of that in a nice package that's peer reviewed and everything else. But I don't know that that's a realistic world for a small company. Um, you know, we that's just not it's not a realistic world.
Yeah. That's a good answer, good honest answer. So, thank you to the gentleman who actually submitted that question to me, and I'm glad
Yes.
that you gave it a very direct answer there. And we discussed, the oil spill, the SGP for the cattle. Well, there's another thing. You guys have the human supplements. So let's just talk briefly about Intact Digest. What is it, and where can customers get it, and do you ship across the U.S.?
Intact came from the word, it's a scientific word, a medical term that means everything is in place, everything's in where it should be, it's intact. And so it was a great brand name for us. And so here's what it does is I've spent a lot of time studying digestion, and it's obvious what's going on in cows or in dogs or in cats or in humans. There's always a correlation there, even with horses. We're all tied in with the same functions that happen. I don't have four stomachs, but like a cow does, but they still function.
Mm.
And you still have to have minerals to create the electrical charges that make things move. You
Mhm.
still have to have hormones. You still have to have proteins. And one of the things that they talked about, and this relates to what we're talking about here with the change in the revenue subject, is most of the livers that are harvested from slaughtering cows can't be sold even for dog food.
Hmm.
Now, when a guy told me that a couple of years ago that owned a slaughterhouse, I said, "Well, what do you mean? I can't go down and buy cow liver?" He said, "Don't give it a try. You can buy calf's liver, but it's very difficult to find cow's liver. And then they showed pictures when they were talking about goals and objectives for the slaughterhouses with beef, and they were showing that that these abscessed livers are causing a real problem. You know, when a liver is huge in a cow, and when you lose that much weight, and when you're selling a cow, that's big. That's real big. Now look at the average human that is either taking drugs, taking medicine, and or is eating GMO foods. You see a lot of men over 40 that have a swollen liver. They're not really. You look at the rest of their body; they're not really fat. They just have a swollen liver, and so that's one of the things that I see happening is digestion is huge with humans. So one of the things that I've always done well with, and I'll get to the answer about where you can get the product, is that I always had good success selling to drugstores. Why? Because people that go to drugstores have constipation problems, and they have constipation problems because they're taking all the drugs. And so it is really so it's a great place to sell product. So getting back to digestion, every involuntary muscle in your body runs on ionic minerals. And so, for instance, instead of when you have to go to the bathroom, number two, instead of a push situation in your gut that gets you all backed up, it was made that you have a rippling that happens with your intestines, and that rippling moves the material along. So it's not unusual for me to have even a rancher tell me, because they all want to try the human product, I had the best bowel movement I've ever had, and it's not out of control.
Yeah.
It's just he did, and you will digest food better, and it gets rid of acid reflux, and you'll smell just like an animal. You will smell a lot of ammonia when you first start taking it, because your body is dumping ammonia.
That's crazy.
And it's got too much ammonia in it. And so when it's all said and done, those correlations, this product, Intact Digest, takes care of that incredibly. There's a tie-in to every product we make. If you notice, it all has Nutramastic in it.
Yep.
If it doesn't have Nutramastic, we don't sell it. And so that's the correlation. So when it was originally used for horses, it was used originally, when I originally found it, it was used with horses that were race horses that were no longer racing. So and what ends up happening is they all get skinny. You see the ribs on them, and they're not absorbing protein. You can tell by the coat, because your coat is protein. And if you notice on our bottle, it says that it increases hair, skin, and nails, and that's protein. So, when a horse starts taking it, they don't get tie-up. Well, tie-up can kill a horse, but they do start gaining weight. Even though they're showing their ribs, they start gaining weight, and then their teeth get real white. Well, the same thing happens in a human. Your teeth get yellow because of ammonia in your digestive system. And when I was at the dairy meeting in Canada, she started talking about a disease that happens where you get holes in your gut, in your intestines, and it really caused by H. pylori, which is like a black corkscrew and hides behind mucus, and it allows particles to go through your digestive system, through your intestine, way before they should. So you get a lot of people say, all of a sudden I'm allergic to strawberries. Never was my whole life. I love strawberries. Well, the problem is the strawberries are getting through your intestines too big, and now your T cells are looking at it saying, what the hell is this? And so they go in like a spaceship. They go down and they figure out what's going to kill that, whatever that is, that big strawberry that we're not used to getting that size. And so now you have an allergy that starts. And so again, correlation, digestion.
It's crazy.
And we just keep getting worse by giving ourselves food that we don't recognize.
Yeah, great answer. White Hot Shaft, thank you for the $5 super. Really nice of you. And he has a question. Is there any timelines Mark is setting for sales, production, or growth?
Are you talking about the product Intact Digest?
I think just in general for the full, like the company overall.
Yeah, the biggest thing I'm looking for, and I've started working on that as recently as the last 2 weeks, is that I want to get the product line called Intact Digest back into the for sale. And we had people like a big drugstore, a big seller of supplements, that we were the only one in their line, called Life Extension, by the way. I'm sure you've all heard of it. We were the only one in their line that they sold that wasn't their brand. And we were selling a ton of it. And so what I'm trying to do right now is get that product back in, because I'm getting phone calls all over the country. Had one guy that he's in his 80s, and he makes a product for the cattle industry, and he heard about us as far as it relates to digestion. And so I sent him a test bottle, and he used it, and he called me 4 times in one day because he was out. And he said, I was on the road. I had our scientist call him, and he says, yeah, he said, it worked great. He says, I want to get some more. And so I sent him another test file, but I really want to get it up and on the website for sale, because I think we're going to sell the crap out of it, no pun intended. So
Good. I hope that answers your question. I know he was talking about basically your company overall, and it does look like, based on the indicators that you're giving, that you are going to see an influx of customers over the next couple months, especially leading towards the end of the year. But that, like I said, this is not a forward-looking statement or financial advice. And I know you want to be cautious when you don't want to promise something that you may not deliver on. So like you can't say, oh, I'm going to get
Right.
like 200 customers and we're going to be pulling the profit of, you don't want to do that. And so
I don't know that.
that's the danger zone, because then people look back and like, oh, well, you said you were going to have 200 customers. And it's like, just smart. Now we're running a little out of time, but I wanted to ask one more question of you. Basically, and this is another thing too, oftentimes, and this is a whole nother aspect, when grain is processed and shipped in bulk, all right, worldwide, much of it goes bad. I didn't know this. You have an anti-rot treatment that can literally reduce and sometimes prevent rot. What is this, and when is this going to be introduced to potential customers?
Good question. And yes, we do. So one of the things that we're working with a big shipping company, that 85% of the agricultural products that are shipped in the world, they're involved not only in the insurance with the insurance companies, but validating that the particular corn or wheat or whatever is what they said it was. So what they told us is that 25% of the cargo in a ship haul it rots.
Wow.
And then what does it do? It creates methane gas, and then the insurance goes up because now they got fire problems. And so they did a test. They got a 50-man lab, and I still have the reports. That when they introduced Nutramastic before, during, and after, and they showed petri dishes and everything, it stops bacteria growth. And period. So now the next step is to say, okay, how do I get that in a ship haul? And but look at the cost savings. the insurance cost savings, the loss of product. And so it is something that we're working with them right now um, on evaluating bagasse to make sure to see if we can use it, how old we can use it, and does it still have the properties that we want.
Hmm.
And so we're working with them on a lot of projects, but this one is one that I'm quite excited about.
Well, I look forward to hearing more about it. I know we're looking forward to it. Mark, thank you so much for joining me on the BFC. You're welcome back anytime, and I hope to have you on in the next 6 to 8 weeks just for an update. You're always welcome. And what is your final message to potential uh, impact customers and IFUS shareholders?
Well, number one, what we're telling you is the truth. And I know that a lot of times we have big mouths that say we aren't, but we are. Everything that we have is built by us, by me, and if I can get the word to the human's ear that we are different and that we can do what we say, we'll be successful. There's no doubt. So I'll that's where I'll leave it. So
Right on. Thank you for joining me, and I look forward to touching base with you in the next 6 to 8 weeks and having you back on again. Mark, you were an excellent guest, and you know what? There's still so much that we could have talked about,
yeah, there
and you
is.
know, it's an overwhelming topic, and you guys have a lot going on. So, congrats to you, and I wish you all the success and stay well.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you, shareholders.
Rock and roll. All right, guys, that was amazing. I really can't wait to have him on again because I'm looking through the list of questions I had, and there were still questions that I had to ask. But that was a meaty podcast. It was a meaty interview. You guys had awesome questions. This is how I want to see the live. I want questions from you guys. This is all about you. This is all about due diligence and firsthand uh, um, DD. That's what this is about. Now, listen, if you're watching right now, and if you watch this video, click the like button. I need you guys to help me out. Seriously, you know what, producer Rob and myself, we spend a lot of time putting into the contacts and communications and putting together these interviews. You know, I love doing it. I want to keep doing it. So hit the like button. Let's grow to 2,000 subs. I'm not stopping. We're not stopping. You know, I have Gene from IGPK coming on Sunday. I have another guest coming on Wednesday. It's just like I can't keep track anymore. But it's like we're expanding and we're growing and we're learning and we're finding out what we should be investing in during an economic pullback. So that way, when things do rebound, when the market finally treats companies with the respect of the valuations that they're worth, you know, we will be on the upside. And like I said, this isn't financial advice, but I'll tell you, we're just getting started. So thank you to every single one of you for being supportive, showing up to the live, and you know, showing me love on the BFC. That's all I got, guys, and I'm gonna say it. Remember, there's more that binds us than breaks us. Peace out.